Hey, it's Dave. Welcome back to my channel. So I finally got this guitar back and I actually did a gig with it the other night. This is that's actually lasered on and then just finished with a little bit of rub-on poly. The neck is made by Warmouth. The body is a Stratocaster body. The pickups are a DiMarzio Fred, a Virtual Vintage 2.2 in the middle, and a HS2 in the neck. The bridge is a Babbitt's, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. The pick guard is brushed steel from Pro Steel Pick Guards in Australia. Great company. Check them out. Pro Steel Pick Guards. And it has a very very metal sound, if you will. But also it can pull everything off. The other night I played one of these nights with this thing. I played Sarah Smile. The opening piece, I have no idea what the hell it was. I just was messing around in drop D, and I said, find some backing track in drop D and in D minor. There it was, and I just started noodling over it and wanted to make a video. So I wanted to show this. Pieced together by Jim Casey, once again, my guy in Stoughton, Massachusetts, who puts it together. And like usual, it comes a little bit lower in action than I like, and I move the action up. But he just does it to make sure that everything's running level and everything, and knows that I like to tweak it myself. The back is just I got a black back cover there. But yeah, so this guitar started off because I had a black Strat body that I had my very first guitar neck on, an Aria Pro 2 ZZ Deluxe neck on it. When I took the neck off, I realized that the body was cut specifically so it could house that neck. So I went on eBay and found this body that I thought was relicked really nicely in satin for about 140 bucks. The pickguard with shipping and everything cost me under 100 bucks. The pickups I already had, it was in that guitar. This I found for like a little under 100 bucks. And then the neck itself was maybe 200 or 300 bucks with all the hardware and everything. So I mean, it's like a $700 guitar. But again, it's one of these guitars. This one plays almost better than anything else I've used, and it's just been great. So this week I did a gig with it, and I actually did a gig with an amp that I bought recently on Craigslist as well. I bought a Rectoverb, a Mesa 50-watt single rectifier Rectoverb. And because I'm used to, for years, playing the dual rectifier, and it was like going back home. It was the sounds I loved. The amp pushed ear on the distorted sounds. And as much as I love using pedals, when it comes to like that 70s, late 70s, early 80s hard rock sound, you really want to push ear, especially when I was playing like the Journey stuff. It's so nice to hear that amp push ear and have the chorus lightly in it. I got the amp for $600 on Craigslist, and then went to my techs, and we ended up doing the mod to make the parallel loop a series loop, because I really don't like parallel loops. I don't think they make sense on an amplifier, but obviously when you're recording in a studio using rack mount gear, it makes sense. But using it on an amplifier, all the new pedals have mixes on them. They mix of drying, and you want to change the levels on each one. So having like a master parallel bleed in just doesn't work for me. This worked great. It was I have to say, it was nice to get back to that kind of sounding amp. It's just something that a Fender can't do. Now, obviously the stuff Fender does, Fender has a much nicer clean. I will stand by the Mesa and say that the dual rectifier and the single rectifier, the Rectoverb 50, fantastic overdrive, fantastic vintage overdrive, modern. The clean is lacking. It's so I changed my board again today which is a board just for that. And I put on something that I think is going to make it like act as a bright boost. It just needs a little kick to make it. It misses something. Years ago when I was running a shop and we had Bogner and we had Mesa, the Mesa's always had that great gain, and the Bogner's a little bit more like a Marshall-y sound, which I don't prefer. And the Bogner's though had that clean that I love, and Mesa kind of lacked in that. So the obviously the ideal thing would be to run 2 amps, run a Bogner clean and a Mesa dirty, but I haven't got that kind of luxury of carrying all that stuff. And anyways, it is April 1st. It is Easter, and I'm down 20 pounds. As you can see, the beard is still growing. It's been about 5.5 weeks, or actually, I think it's the beginning. This is the beginning of week 6, actually, and so we'll see. Every month, I'm trying to see how much weight I can lose. When I get my weight down to within 10 pounds, I'll shave this, depending on if I like it or not. I'm going to dye it, I think, like color it dark, because next week I am turning 50, and I'd like to hang on to my youth for maybe one more year. But anyway, so this is it's a very cool guitar, easy to piece together. If you go on eBay and find the parts, it's there. It's a little crazy when I see like Strats going for like $5,000, master build Strats. I'm thinking to myself, boy, do they have people fooled. I've been getting a lot of back and forth. People either watch 2 seconds of my video and don't understand it, but they always come back and they're like, are you telling me the nut doesn't affect the tone? And it does affect the tone. It'll affect it acoustically. But when you start playing, and this is what I recommend anyone, go play a loud rig and then tell me how much your guitar is like, how much you can hear the wood coming out of that. It's just nuts. There's a great video, and it's like all these guys from YouTube that go into a room. I think it's with Pete Thorne. And he goes into a room and they play a plexi on 10. And you ain't hearing anything, But anyways, so what happens is the string vibrates. I'm just going to say this once just to show you guys. The string will vibrate. There's nothing I can do if I put my hand here and pick it this way. The string is going to vibrate the same way no matter what. I can't alter the way that it changes. I can't hold this and change the way the string vibrates. Now, I can change the way the guitar resonates, but the pickup is only watching the vibration. It's all it sees. There isn't frequencies that's getting canceled. That's all enforced resonance. In the laws of physics, you cannot change the vibration of a string unless you change the scale length, the tension, or the mass of the string. So it's just physically impossible. So stop bugging me about like, oh, I can use a plastic nut and a bone that's going to sound the same. Well, listen to a record. Tell me what kind of nut it is. If you could tell me what kind of nut it is, I'll tell you what, I'll go through my videos and watch, and then tell me what kind of nut I have on this guitar. In fact, make a guess. What kind of nut do I have? There's no way you can tell. It's just nonsense. Yes, certain nuts are going to couple the strings better and will make it vibrate better, but that only vibrates the body. The strings don't see any of that. It just sees this. And no, because this is sitting, oh, but this pickup sitting in the body. No, that's not how it works. And also, it's not sitting on the body. It's sitting on a pick guard. But anyways, that's just the straight dope. So this is the guitar. I think it came out pretty cool. Again, I used a very similar to the Dan Smith logo. I like it. It just looks complete this way. But it's a cool Strat. I think I got this Satriani strap that I had for 1,000,000 years from when I worked at the store. But yeah, So that's really all I got going on. So that's it for me for right now for working on guitars and having guitars built and whatnot. I've had enough fun. Uh, I bought a few amps. I bought a Marshall JCM 900, I believe I talked about last time. Played it for a friend of mine who immediately bought it off me on the spot. He loves that Marshall sound. Me, I'm so-so. But there's a JCM 2000 DSL 50 watt that a friend of mine is holding on to for me that I'm going to pick up next month. So I'll have that Marshall. I think I talked about I picked up a 2x12, an EVH 2x12, but took the speakers out and have the Celestion, basically the UK made ones for Mesa, the ones that are in, they're 60 watts. They're the vintage 30s. So I have those in there. And I also put a vintage 30 in the cabinet that I'm using for my, what the hell is it? The Vox Night Train. And that's a cool little amp. Yeah, I've just been on lately. I've been on an amp kick trying to get my sound in this cover band a little bit better and more, something that pushes air, like I said. I just really dig that sound. I really can't say enough things about the Rectoverb that I like. I really like it. I've been using a Wampler compressor for a few years now. And I don't know if I'm losing favor with it. It's just, my light died on one of them. And it's just not sounding, I don't know. I don't know. I have an analog mini bicomp, and that has a great sounding compression that I like. I really want to try that Cali 76 that has a blend knob as well. I think that's a cool one. And I see Keeley made one, although, I remember trying them all next to each other at one point. I really like the Wampler. I don't know why I'm just losing favor with it. Maybe it's just, it really sounds great through the Fender, through the Mesa. It's just, even on the clean. That Mesa clean is not great. Did I mention that yet? I did? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just not great. But I've been digging it. I've been digging it for that, like, that vintage sound and the modern sound. It's funny, I was talking to a buddy. I just am not a Marshall fan. Marshalls have this sound to me that almost sounds like there's a tube, like the same thing I hear in tube screamer circuits, I hear in the Marshall circuit, and it's like this. It's the metallic sound to it. I told a buddy of mine today. I said it reminds me like if a high gain amp or a gain amp was an engine. The Marshalls remind me of two-stroke dirt bikes. They're loud and they're dirty sounding. It's not like the kind of gain that I love and listen to and be like, oh, there's a clarity in that, like that I hear with like the Mesa or even the Bogner stuff. Years ago, there was an amp company, what the hell were they called? Ashdown. They made a guitar amp called the Fallen Angel, and that was one of my a Fallen Angel 180. That was one of my all-time favorite sounding heads. But even Crank, not the Crankenstein, but the Revolution 1 Plus, it has a real nice gain sound. It's also funny because it reminds me of the 5150, the first version. Actually, when I hear it now, it does sound like a modified Marshall to me. It has that Marshall sound. It's kind of like the in-between of a Marshall and a Mesa, where it's cleaner than a Marshall and it's nicer than a Marshall, but it sounds like it was a modded Marshall. Whereas, Mesa sounds like it's based off of a different circuit, and obviously it's a lot closer to a Marshall sound. But it's a great sounding amp, and if I can see one of those cheaper on, I'd probably grab one. That 5150 sounds great. I've been getting more into that higher gain stuff just because, I have like my clean amps, and a friend of mine just bought a PR12 Morgan amp, which is like the Princeton Reverb by Morgan. And I can't wait to play that because those things sound fantastic. But yeah, and it's also funny because I was talking to another friend of mine, and he starts talking to me about all these different speakers, and these Celestians that I'd swapped out. A friend of mine was selling them, and it just happened to all fall in my lap. They really weren't anything I was looking for. But some people like speaker crazy. They buy something, spend a lot of money, and then they're like, oh, I'm going to put this speaker and that speaker. I'm like, well, wouldn't you have just gone and listened to it and been like, oh, this sounds good like this? Or I don't know. I get a little crazy like that. I think when people get a little bit too into the minutia of things, it gets a little, we're always chasing stuff, but make whatever you have work. That's the main thing. And play. You know what I mean? Get out there and play. Because, I know a guy who has racks, just like stacks amplifiers and then backups to if they break. And then backups to those. And it's like he hasn't even gone out and played shows. I'm like, what do you need backups for? You got to go try a gig. I'm running, I don't have backups for mine. I'm sitting there playing every, 3 to 4 nights a week. So, anyways, not too much going on. Thought I would just check in, show off the new guitar. Played great, sounded great this week. I really was happy with it. And I'm still waiting to get the white back because on the white guitar, I'm having these 2 strings underneath the 2 string scallops just on the higher, just so I can get under. This guitar, it's funny, I don't really feel that I would need it as bad as I do on those others. I don't know what it is. But anyways, I hope everyone's well. Hope everyone had a good Easter, whatever holiday you're celebrating, Passover, Easter, and very good.
How's that for a topper?
You're right on target.
You're right on the money. Everything you said.
You hit the nail right on the head with your comments, what you're saying today.
You're 150% correct.